First
Bro, I'm
time back.
excited. I'm excited, bro. Paramount for real.
Paramount, the debut. This will be pretty fire. 324, man, in Vegas. It's about time. We've waited 6 weeks for this, so finally.
Yeah, bro. I'm excited, get to have a guy who trains out of Colorado, former wrestler, you know, background like me. He's freaking fighting Patty the Batty, one of the biggest rising stars there is. And it's going to be fun, There's been a lot of talks with, like we were talking about earlier, with the possible staff on Gaethje's neck and all this stuff. But I think people underestimate how big Pimblett is, bro. We saw what he did to Michael Chandler, and Michael Chandler and Gaethje had a war.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing too. It sucks because we both met Justin Gaethje at the
Salt
Pereira
Lake City.
versus Talil Roundtree, so
Yep.
it sucks, but it's gonna be a good fight. I'm excited for it. But yeah, man, to start it out, we got Adam Fugit versus Ty Miller. Got 10-5 versus 6-0. I mean, big age difference. Adam's 37, Ty Miller 25, around the same height and reach, 6'2", 77-inch reach. How you feeling about this one?
Yeah, bro. Ty Miller coming out of the Dana White Contender Series. It's just, I feel like he's just getting fed somebody, to make his entrance into the UFC in Adam Fugit. Like we said, Fugit's probably on his way out. They're probably going to cut him after he loses this one. I mean, I think it's just going to be Ty Miller by whatever he wants. So I have Ty Miller money line, but obviously the odds on this fight are pretty insane. So I may stick it in a parlay or something, but Fugit or Miller for sure.
Yeah, man, it's like you said, Miller coming off the Dana White Contender Series, fought in the LFA, fought in Cage Fury, and I mean that's where a lot of these top guys are coming from, and he's a dog. I think this is kind of a layup fight for him. We see Adam get finished by Mariah's KO'd him. I mean, who's obviously a top contender now, but Mallet subbed him. I mean, can't be mad at that, but I just feel like he's kind of on the way out. He got KO'd bad versus Islam Dolotov. I mean, same thing, guy coming off the contender series. I just feel like we got to give these guys fights to show who they really are. And I just see Ty making the best out of this situation, building momentum, getting a nice KO.
No, yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, that brings us to the second fight of the night. Ricky Tursos, 13-5 versus Smotherman. 12-6. How you feel about this one?
Yeah, man. I mean, like we talked earlier, Ricky, he's tough to bet on. He kind of gave me that Tony Ferguson vibe. He won the Ultimate Fighter. Right now he's 2-3 in the UFC. Tough fight against Raul Rosa Jr. after he subbed him. He pulled out the first fight, but other than that, I mean, he lost unanimous decision last year. I mean, I'm not sure if it was Kevin or it's a hobby, but pretty sure it was a hobby. But he was just kind of like dancing around, not really fighting, not really landing any strikes. It was actually kind of embarrassing. And honestly, he hasn't really been active. But for him being 32, entering his prime, I hope he's been training hard. Is kind of what I'm going off of. He's got a slight reach advantage, and I think he can use his kicks. He really needs to use his grappling element too and get this fight down to try to finish Cameron Smotherman. But ultimately, this is not one that I would bet on. But I'm picking Ricky to win it, but it could go either way.
Yeah, no, I'd agree, and I'd honestly, I'm picking Smotherman in this one. Same with you. I'm probably not going to put it in anything. It just Smotherman, he has glimpses of high level fight IQ in fights, but it's just moments. He hasn't been able to show me a full 15 minutes of strict perfection almost in a sense, so it's
Yeah,
to me it's a toss up. Like you said, Tertios loses a lot of decisions, and or he's getting subbed. Cameron doesn't have that well of a ground game to me to be able to put a guy like Tertios out. So I feel like it's going to come out to honestly a point war unless somebody gets clipped. And so I'm going to take Smotherman money line, and that's what I got, bro.
yeah, that's a tough one to bet on. But then that brings us, Denzel Freeman, Josh Hockett. We got 7-1 versus 7-0. Both these guys both have wrestling backgrounds. Freeman, he's a Greco-Roman Olympic wrestler. You got Josh Hockett. I know he was played for the NFL. I think the 49ers. He D1 wrestler. How you feeling about this one?
Yeah, man. Just from what I've seen, Josh Hockett, he's just a well-rounded athlete. Very athletic for a big guy. I mean, so is Denzel, but Josh has just shown me more glimpse of high level MMA in a sense. You could be a high level athlete and try to come to the sport, but it's different to translate your former athletics into the sport. And I've just seen it more from Josh, and he just looks more crisp to me. So I'm gonna choose Josh Hockett. I'm probably gonna go money line at -230, but I think it's gonna be an exciting fight. I think it's gonna be two wrestlers who try to stand and bang, hopefully, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean that's how it normally goes. The wrestling kind of counts each other out, and then they stand and bang. I know. Denzel, he lost it by a split decision to a guy in the PFL, Isaiah Pinson, who's 4-2 now. So that's not really a good look. Honestly, his last fight sucked too. I think maybe he'll try to bounce back this fight, put on a more exciting fight. He kept on. He was like Lil Jon yelling, "Yeah, yeah!" Like I don't know, man. He was
Yeah.
kind of a joke. Like I said, though, both these guys great wrestlers. I think with the power, with Josh Hockett should pull this off. Hockett, he's also training at Jackson Week. I know Freeman,
Yep.
he's training out at Killcliff. I mean, just not a lot of heavyweights at Killcliff. You got Muhammad Usman, who just popped for steroids. I mean, I just think Josh, being the younger, more athletic fighter, he can really be a problem in this division eventually. So I think he's going to get it done.
No, definitely. I agree. I agree. Well, that brings us to the next one. The old dog versus the, yeah, not super young, but, younger Alex Hernandez, Michael Johnson, 25-19, Alex Hernandez, 18-8. How you feel about this one?
Yeah, man. I mean, Johnson, he's 39. He's on a nice streak. I know you had him versus Daniel Zellhuber last fight, which was a huge underdog. So I think a lot of people are betting on him because of that momentum. But I definitely think Daniel was his best win in the past 6 years. And like I said, almost 40 years old. His power and speed is still there, but he's a vet in the game. But I've been on Hernandez, man, since we saw him fight Austin Hubbard live. And I mean, he's won me 4 fights in a row, and I think he just keeps on improving, man. He's finally like entering his element, big power in his hands on the feet, good footwork. I think he'll mix it up with the takedowns, and I like him at 155, so I think he's gonna get the finish over Johnson.
No, yeah, I agree. That's what I put in my notes. Hernandez, that's what I have him by is Hernandez KO. It's almost plus 300. And I think
Nice.
he's shown glimpses of power, and I mean he's pretty built for 55s. He's not like some of these top guys like a Patty Pimblett, a Justin Gaethje, but man, that guy has some power too. And I think when he connects with the punch, it could put anybody out. But we've seen Michael Johnson get put to sleep, by some guys who
Multiple
don't have the
times.
most power and multiple times. And the chin fades, the chin fades. So I think Hernandez is gonna, get in there, do use some dirty boxing. And he's gonna land, and it's gonna be lights out.
Yeah, I mean Johnson has over 40 fights, so the damage has been done.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But yeah, man, then we got the 125ers. We got Perez versus Charles Johnson, 25-10 to 18-7. But these guys, 33-35, pretty similar. In the striking, but Johnson's got a slight reach advantage, slight height advantage. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, man. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Alex Perez is a very well-rounded MMA fighter, and Charles Johnson is a great striker. He fought an old version of Joshua Van, who's the champ now, and put him out. But after that, Van went on, a big old streak, and he just, he started terrorizing the division. And man, I like to think Charles Johnson's gonna pull one out here. Just with his crisp striking, maybe threaten some knees, use feints and keep his distance, use that length to his advantage. And I know Alex Perez, he's a dog, he's gonna fight till to till he's down and out. But I think Charles could land that punch that just either ends it or he's gonna outpoint him without going to the ground. That's just what I see happening is Johnson money line. Just kind of touching, staying on the outside. Not getting taken down. Like I said, feint the knees, feint the uppercuts. Try to keep Alex away from the grappling because I mean, you take Charles down, it's kind of wraps at that. So
Yeah, man, and I mean Charles really durable. He's never been finished. I mean Alex Perez, he looked like a world eater versus Nikolai. I mean this guy has just been fighting dog after dog. His losses are to Figgy, Pantoja, Muhammad Makayev, Tesser Atera, Asu. I mean, and these are all really good grapplers, And he was actually winning that fight against Alambaya, and got caught in that guillotine, but had the knee injury versus Tatsuro Terra. I mean, but versus Charles Johnson, these guys are pretty even with the striking. I know, like I said, Johnson never been finished, but I just think I think Perez is gonna find he finally found a fight where he's gonna be able to stand and bang, and I mean, uh, versus Makayev, he went 17 out of 20 on takedown defense. So he definitely has the takedown defense. He can stop the takedowns. I think he can get the takedown if he really wants it. But I just think Alex, might have the advantage wherever the fight goes. So I think I'm riding with Alex on this one at plus 140.
yeah, bro. I like that.
Then we got Nikita Krylov versus Bukakis.
Yeah, bro. Nikita, 30-11 versus Modestus Bukowskis, 19-6. Man, to be honest, neither of these guys have really shown me,
Mhm.
like top 10 level fighting, but at this point, Bukowskis has shown me a lot more, glimpses of high level striking, grappling, everything. I
Right.
think he's kind of just going to impose his will, his power. He's a big guy for the weight class. So I think he's gonna kind of put the fight where he wants and get Nikita out of there. Honestly, but I'm gonna take Bukowski's money line. I think he's just gonna be more well rounded, and if he gets a finish, he gets a finish. But I'd rather just put it where I feel like it's going to be the best. And I think that's just Bukowskis winning. We've seen him, point score and finish people, but man, I think it's going to be a good fight. I would like to see Nikita Krylov, give us some glimpse of some old self, where he was having wars with people. But I think Bukowskis is going to get him out of there for sure.
Yeah, man, I agree. And I mean, Bukaka is just a slight favorite, minus 140. So really good for the parlay. I mean, and you got to think about it too, man. Nikita Krylov came back after missing 2 years. He had a severe shoulder injury. I mean, if you're out for 2 years, that's a big deal. So part of the reason, why I picked Dominic Reyes to beat him. And then in July, he gets KO'd bad versus Bogdan Guskov. So
Guskov, yep.
Guskov, yeah. So it seems to me like he's on the tail end of his career. Even at 33 years old, he looks like he's 40. And I think that injury really did something to him. And he's always been kind of, back and forth, win some, lose some. But I feel like his chin is gone. Medista's, he's 11 out of his 19 wins are by KO. So I think he can land some big shots. He's on a 4-fight win streak right now. And I got him to get this one done, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did end it with like a head kick or something.
No, yeah, definitely. I think that's a good take on that fight, bro. So next one, it brings us to is Atiba Gautier versus Andre Puliev. Atabah 9-1, Andre 10-3. Obviously we know the odds on this one are going to be way in Atabah's favor. He's a
Yeah,
KO machine. So how you feel about that one?
yeah. I mean, Atiba, he's like a mini Francis Ngannou, man, and I'm on the hype train. I know Andre he beat Nick Klein this last fight. Before that, he got pieced up by Christian Leroy Duncan. Atiba's one loss was by split decision. Dude's only 23 years old. You know, 7 of his 10 fights round one KO. So definitely, I mean, he's definitely got to work on his gas tank, but I don't see him losing anytime soon, man. Especially with these unranked guys. So I think he's the next guy on the come up, and I mean, he's getting real favorable matchups, and I'm gonna stick with him. You know, I think he'll probably get another round one KO right here. So
No, yeah, I agree. I have him by KO, but even still, the odds at minus 425 for that is rough. So it's definitely got to go in a parlay if I'm going to put any money on this one, unless I feel ballsy, put a KO round one, something
mhm,
stupid by the minute. But
still stupid odds.
yeah, still stupid odds. So I think Atiba, just somebody wants to make a parlay, he's a good pick just for the outcome. Kind of everybody knows what's coming.
Well, especially when you get those
But
big parlays going, you know, it'll
yeah,
add a little bit more to it. But
yeah. But then brings us to the final prelim.
hmm
Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo. Umar 19-1 versus Davison 25-5. How you feel about this one?
yeah, man. I mean, Figgy, he's like one of the biggest underdogs from a former champ. I know Umar's like a minus 1500. So I mean, it's got a lot to do with everything. Like you said, 19-1, 25-5. 30, he's 38, Umar's 30, you know. Figgy, the former champ, was on a nice run at bantamweight, 3 fight win streak till he met Peter Yan, you know. But you saw that fight, man. Yan dominated him the entire fight, won every round. Then he lost to Corey Sandhagen, but Corey was dominating him too, whether it was a leg injury or not. I think Corey was going to continue dominating him. And then his last fight, he wins a close split decision to Montel Jackson, who some
Yep.
people probably think he lost. So I think Umar's on a different level. He's hungry. I think losing to Marab like turned him just into a different animal. And the thing is too, man, Figgy, he really doesn't move his head off the center line, and I think Umar, if he wants to take him down, he'll take him down with ease. So it's kind of for me, it's Umar about whatever he wants.
No, yeah, yeah. I agree. Umar's just there's levels to this, and I mean, Khabib's camp has shown us this. Umar, Islam, you can put the best grappler in there, and they're still gonna out wrestle you. They're gonna outdo you in what you feel like you're the best in.
Yeah,
And I mean, Islam goes out there and subs Charles Oliveira, the greatest submission artist in UFC history. Some people say, like that's what they do. They go out there to make you look stupid at your own game. And so, honestly, I said this to you earlier, but I think I'm going to take the over 2.5 just to be safe. Umar likes to put it on people, but I also feel like Davison may be able to just hang on in there. I think he's going to be fighting more to not get finished than to win at this point. Umar's just so well rounded. He's gonna be able to touch him up on the feet, but he's also going to out wrestle him. And he's not gonna get beat, or Umar's not gonna lose taking it to the ground. He's not gonna get out grappled. They're so strong in the way there's combat sambo, whatever translates to this, their takedowns, the way they control you with their, body positioning, and just how they control your weight and keep you flat on your back. So I think Umar's just going to kind of completely dominate this fight, wherever it goes.
yeah, man. And then that brings us to the main card. We got 145ers. We got Arnold Allen versus John Silva. Arnold Allen 20-3, 32 years old. John Silva 16-3, 29. So both these guys in their prime right now. How you feel about this one?
Yeah, man. I was watching Embedded, and Arnold Allen's coming off about a year layoff. He hasn't fought in
Mhm.
some time, and sometimes people say that does bad, and sometimes it does really good for some fighters. Not too much time off, but enough time to really train and really refocus your mind. Sometimes, if you're coming off a loss, and John Silva coming off that loss to Diego Lopez, I think it's just going to be a banger of a fight. Arnold Allen, he's willing to stay in there, stand and bang. John Silva, as we know, he's coming to take your head off, and if he doesn't take your head off, he'll just beat you up the full 3 rounds. So I think you know, Allen's been in there with some of the top of the top. You know, he fought a Max Holloway. You know, that's kind of who stopped his first big run was Max Holloway. But
Yep.
man, I think there's something in there that Allen has that he's gonna do something to Silva that he's gonna be able to finish him off. I feel like he could outscore a decision or survive the onslaught of the first round and start to put it on later. But dude, I just have this feeling that Arnold Allen's gonna pull it off here. So I'm gonna take Arnold Allen at plus 230.
Yeah, man, really good odds on him. I remember Allen being on that 10 fight win streak. It was so close to fighting for that belt, and then, like you said, Max gave him that first loss in the UFC. Even dropped him at the end of that fight, even though the stats don't show it. He definitely knocked Allen down, and Silva has real power, man, especially for 145. I know Allen is more technical, hasn't like you said, haven't fought since his win versus Giga in July 2024. So over a year ago. And I mean, as we learned, like Giga isn't really as good as we thought. He's a
Yep.
s- he was a swift kickboxer. The Swanson and Barboza wins are his best wins, and I just think if and when Silva lands on Allen, it'll kind of be like how Marias lands on Sean Brady. He'll touch him, and his face is just gonna totally change. He's gonna realize like, oh man, this guy's different.
Real
And
power.
not only does he have the power, but he's so fast, and every combo connects. I think an amazing fight would be. I know Ilya moved up, but Silva just lost to Lopez, but I'd love to see that fight. Ilya versus John Silva, man, that's a dream fight. So just on that note, I think Silva's that good, and I think he'll probably win by. I think he can get the finish, knockout. So I'm kind of going with both the double chance, either Silva by KO or Silva by submission.
Okay, okay, I like it. I like it, bro. Yeah, well, that brings us to the next one. Natalia Silver versus Rose Namajunas. Natalia 19-5, Rose 15-7. How you feel about this one?
Yeah, man. I mean, Natalia, she's the real deal. Like Valentina even said that she was next, and she still took this fight versus Rose, which just shows you how game she is. She's on a 13 fight win streak, and I know Rose is still Rose. Great win versus Miranda Maverick, but I think this is just a bad matchup for her. So I gotta go with Natalia Silva. Then we see her fight for the belt.
No, yeah, I agree. I think she's so well rounded, and she is, she's fought at this weight. Rose came up, and so this is her natural weight class. She's gonna, in my opinion, do whatever she wants in this fight. She's gonna take Rose down. She's gonna beat her up on the ground. She's gonna put it where she wants to, and she's just gonna run over Rose, in my opinion. So I have Silva. Um, Same thing, another parlay filler. Silva money line minus 400.
Yeah,
But
it's only going up.
yeah, and her stock's just rising, bro. So, but then that brings us to them heavyweights. Waldo Acosta versus Derek Lewis. Costa 16-2, Derek Lewis 29-12. How you feel?
Yeah, I mean Derek Lewis, 40 years old, man, but I think it's gonna be a banger. Waldo had that close fight with Dalia. He had the eye got poked in the eye and ended up coming back. I think that fight should have actually ended in a no contest because once you stop a fight, you can't restart it. But I'm pretty sure that's the only time that that's ever happened in a fight. But like I said, he came back, KO'd him, and then he gave Shamil Gaziev the good old right hook, KO'd him in a minute. So I mean, the power's there, and I know he really wants that title shot soon. So his real loss is only to Sergey Pavlik and Delima. So I don't think he's looking to take you down. Great strategy versus Rebellis, but we've seen Lewis take down defense. Even if you do get him down, he just kind of stands up. And I mean, people compare him and Pavlich, their fighting style. Both huge power, and Pavlich couldn't put Waldo out. So it's kind of just something to think about. But I mean, Lewis, he really wants to hurt this guy, man. And he's been looking good. He's slimmed down a little bit. His cardio looks better, and he's kind of doing it to all these up and comers. You know, he KO'd Teixeira in 35 seconds, so he's looking better than ever. You know, at 40 years old. So I got to bet on the Black Beast, man. I like these odds. I knew he opened at a plus 350, and he's around a plus 250 now. So a lot of people are kind of betting on him, but I think once Waldo gets hit, like Lewis is gonna put him out, man, and keep on adding to the knockout king, the most KOs in the business.
No, yeah, I agree. I'm actually gonna take. I want Lewis to win. I think he could pull off the KO, but I'm actually gonna take the under 1.5 for this fight. You know, plus 100, 110 when I checked last. I feel like, like you said, Lewis is coming to prove a point. He's knocking out all these up and comers who feel like they're their next title shot guy, and Derek Lewis is a different beast, even being 40 years old. He's still got that power and he looks better than ever in shape. So I think Lewis could get it done, but I think I'm going to take the under 1.5 for this fight for sure.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be a good fight. Then we got the 135ers. You know, I mean, winner of this could get a title shot. We don't know. We got Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Sugar 18-3, Song 22-8. I mean, not the best record, but we've seen his fights. He's a great fighter. How you feel about this one?
Yeah, man, Sean O'Malley, a Chris striker as we've seen, he's a sniper, one shot could put you on your back and you don't know what hits you. Just almost like a Conor McGregor type style,
Hmm.
he's got those crisp straight hands and he's going to put them on you, but man, Song Yadong's a dangerous 135er. He's built, he's got good grappling, and that I mean, I saw, like I said, watching the UFC embedded, Uriah Faber has talked about how Song Yadong has been strictly training jujitsu because that's his practice. That's what he wants to be good at.
Hmm.
But we've seen him put hands on people, so he's dangerous everywhere the fight goes. I just think O'Malley's smart, I mean, he's been in there with the likes of Marab, Peter Yan, he's fought good strikers, he's fought good grapplers, and he's always found a way to make it either close or finish people. He's always in there, he's always game. It doesn't matter if it's the first round, the third round. He's gonna find a way to pull something out if he needs it. I think he's just more savvy in the high end of the MMA game. He's been up there with the who's who. So I think Sean O'Malley is going to pull this one off. So I'm going to take O'Malley at minus 200 money line.
Yeah, man, I agree. You know, I love this entire card. It's sad that Kayla versus Nunez is off, but this is gonna be a banger co-main. You know, Sean, man, I think he's dialed in for this fight. Like he's got the range, he's got the speed, got the power, striking swift. I don't think Song will be able to touch him. Like he's fast, but every time he gets in the range, I feel like O'Malley's gonna be able to counter him, throw that front kick out there, attack the legs. Song is he's kind of one dimensional. I know he's working with Alpha Male and Uriah Faber and all of them, but he's pretty one dimensional, man. He likes to just box you, and I think if you're gonna get in the pocket and try to box O'Malley, he could put you lights out. Ultimately, I think he'll probably get a decision win, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did knock him out. I just feel like O'Malley's got more tools in the shed.
No, definitely. I think O'Malley's just he's gonna be able to put more things together on the feet that counteract whatever Yadong's gonna do. And so yeah, man. But that brings us to the main event of the first Paramount card. Gaethje versus Pimblett. Gaethje 26-5, Pimblett 23-3. How you feel?
Yeah, man. I mean, Patty's 7-0 in the UFC, looking more and more dominant every fight. All of Justin's losses have come by KO or submission, and I feel like if he loses this one, it's his last fight. You know, which I hate to say because how great of a fighter he is, the highlight, your fighter's favorite fighter. But since losing to Khabib, man, he just hasn't been as active. And I mean, he's basically fighting once every year. I know Patty hasn't fought in a year or two since Chandler, but he's only getting better and better every day. While I feel like Justin is just past his prime. Had a devastating KO to Max Holloway. Both those fights with Fiziev, you know, really could have gone either way. And I think Patty's just way more durable. And if it goes to the ground, Patty's leaps and bounds above Justin. I know Trevor Whitman was even saying that Justin kind of plans to wrestle a little bit more. And you put Patty on his back, he's just as dangerous as he is on top. So I actually think Patty will probably find his shots and KO Justin, but whether it's on the ground or the feet, I think his hands are just getting better and better, and he really wants this Ilya fight, and it'll be a great story. Sad that Justin's gonna have to retire, but he's been through a lot of wars lately, and I'm not mad at it. He has some great fights, but I think Patty's a lock on this card.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. I was actually going to ask you if he was one of your locks because he's definitely one of mine. Pimblett, he's a monster. We saw what he did to Michael Chandler, and Justin Gaethje couldn't get Chandler out of there. And they had a war, and Pimblett kind of just gave it to Michael Chandler. He hit that jumping knee, just got to the ground and vicious elbows. Pimblett's just so big for the weight class, man, and he's more well rounded than people like to think. The Jared Gordon kind of turned a lot of people off the hype train, which I mean, fair. That fight, I feel like could have gone the other way too, but
Right.
here we are, and Jared Gordon's not in the position Patty Pimblett is. So it kind of just shows that Patty was of level. Maybe that day he wasn't, but he is, and so he's just I feel like levels above an old Gaethje who's ready to kind of step out almost. He already said he's done by 2027. So
I mean, he's golfing.
yeah, he's golfing. He's saying, I'm gonna finish this English Scouser, whatever, and then he's gonna fight Ilya. But man, I think Pimblett's gonna play spoiler in this one to Gaethje's retirement plan, and he's gonna finish him, and say night night to the Gaethje train.
Yeah, man. Like you said, we met Gaethje, we love Gaethje, but it's Patty's time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bro. Yep. That I mean, that takes us to or take the unders of the card to see how it goes. What you feel for your take the unders?
yeah, man. I definitely think the Patty Justin fight under 3.5 rounds, and like you said, I think Derek Lewis and Walter go under 1.5. So I would say those are my take the unders. And with my lock of the night, I'm liking Patty and I'm liking the two Silvas, John Silva and Natalia Silva. I think that three-leg parlay is a lock.
No, yeah, I think I agree. I got Pimblett, I got Natalia Silva, and I have um Alex Hernandez is my locks. Those are my three locks for
Nice.
the card. And then I got Arnold Allen as my take the under, and Acosta versus Lewis under 1.5.
Love it, love it.
So yeah,
Yeah.
man, that
Yeah,
brings
man,
us to
finally
UFC 324, huh?
finally back.
2026 UFC year, baby.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Paramount
sir.
debut. Can't wait.
Bet we'll
Make
catch you later. Stay tuned in with the Instagram.
Yep, take the under on Instagram. Check us out on Spotify and YouTube. And we'll see y'all.